What's up, guys and gals? My name is Splattercat, and we're here at the Nerd Castle today playing Dwelvers for our weekly indie newcomer. I had something else lined up, but I decided to go with Dwelvers because it's developed in part by some of the Towns team. So if you've been around the channel for a while, you'll know that I did a fairly extensive coverage of Towns, probably like 50 episodes or so, and this game was a lot of fun. I fiddled around with it, and I had a blast. It's a dungeon management sim where you are the bad guy, a la Dungeon Keepers 2, but it does have a lot of its own things going on. So without further ado, let's jump on into the game because I'm sure you guys want to see as much of the game as possible before we give it the yay or the nay. So we'll generate a new level, and essentially how the game works is this big guy right here is like our dungeon heart, and he's a jolly looking fellow, kind of a Jabba the Hutt meets Satan meets weird earrings piercing man. I don't know, I'm out of ideas here. And as you can see in our right three-fingered hand, oddly enough, we appear to have suffered some amputations. We can dig around, so there it is right there, and you'll see that our imps jump to work and they'll dig away the earth. Let's go ahead and make some space, and we'll talk about some of the different features that this game has planned. Now, aside from a number of other things that I want to talk about, first and foremost is going to be the comparison that a lot of people draw to Dungeon Keeper. I haven't played Dungeon Keeper in a very, very long time, but if you're unfamiliar with Dungeon Keeper, which is the instantaneous correlation most people are going to draw with this game, if you haven't seen Dungeon Keeper, you are a bad guy deep within the earth planning to defend your dungeon against heroes that are coming down to take all of your treasure and your goodies. And being the bad guys that we are, we don't want to share our goodies. We want to hoard them all to ourselves, our delicious truffles of darkness. We want to hold them all to our tummies and just keep them. And that is the basis of the gameplay here as well, although this game does have some fresh and new ideas that it's trying to instill. How do the controls work? Well, we can take this pick, and as you can see, I just rubber band box things, and those will be marked for digging. It's very simple. It goes quickly. I mean, there's nothing difficult about learning to control the game. And from what I've seen so far, all of the little characters and whatnot, we can get down in here. We can take a look at our imps. They stamp out the floors so that we can build stuff on them. They'll also create walls, provided that there are no resources in the walls. If you look right here, that means that there's roots in the walls. That right there is stone, and this is, of course, gold, delicious gold to pay our troops with. As they iron out these locations, we can turn them into different rooms that produce different things to make our base run a little bit more smoothly and to give us more resources with which to purchase new units. Resources, I should say, not resources. Resources sound like something that might get used up at a restaurant over time, but anyways, this room right here, I think I'm going to turn this into, oh, well, let's talk about this first. We're going to turn this into a storage room because first things first, we need a place to store all of our ill-begotten goods. And so let's get going with the ill-begotten storage. There it is right there, and you'll see all of our imps jump into motion. If we don't have enough imps to get the job done, what can we do? Well, we'll quickly click this little panel down here labeled the creature menu. And we'll look at how many imps we have. They have shades on, they're styling, they got candles on their head to illuminate the darkness. We've got 8 of them right now, and it'll tell you what they're all up to, how many of them are fighting, how many of them are building, and how many of them are doing what the hell, wandering around, standing around, traveling in between locations. I'm going to say that I want 4 more because they cost dirt to produce. It costs 4 dirt for each one that we make, and I'm willing to bet that we have plenty of dirt laying around. You'll see here, they'll feed the dirt to the dungeon heart, and he will just kind of belch out some more imps. And that's how imp babies are made. When dirt and a giant Satan monster love each other very much, one eats the other, and then you end up with new imps. It's a little bit of demonology slash demon biology. Demonobiology. God, that sounds like something that would be awesome to study in college. Anyways, you can see here that we've built our storage room, but there's nothing really to store anything on, and they're all standing around idly. So what we'll do is we'll right-click that, we'll click the center block there, and here's all of our different storage devices. I'm going to go with square tables, and we're going to put in some square tables there, there, and there. So there we are, 6 tables on that side. Likewise, on this side, we're going to do the same thing, and I just misclicked right there, so we want to get rid of that so that he doesn't accidentally build more. And I think I'll do cross tables on this side, because cross tables are sounding pretty badass. We'll put in a couple of those. And what you'll see is the imps will get on in here, and you can see they're already starting to stack up all the goodies that we've got. So we've got wood being stacked, we've got little bits of stone and dirt and whatnot, all being thrown into place. And once we have gold, they'll put that into place as well. But for now, what we want to do is a bit more exploratory mining. So let me make sure that I'm building in the proper direction. So we'll put a door right there. And we'll build out like so. You want to be careful because there are bad guys hidden in these underrealm areas. some of the proposed features for the later game. Right now, this is a very, very early alpha build that I'm currently playing, but proposed ideas for later on in the alpha include being able to go to multiple layers, so we can build here, we could be able to build on the floor below, we can go up and down like Nomoria or like towns or whatever else you've been thinking. And on top of that, there will be settlements that are occupied by various forces on the surface. You can raid their land, you can send your soldiers out to bring back your goodies, and then dig deeper into the earth to unlock more stuff. Now, what are we going to use this for right here? Well, the game forces you to build your base in sort of an intelligent manner, which is always stubbing my creative toe, because you want everything to be streamlined with respects to the way that your supply line runs. So obviously your imps are going to have to go and grab stuff off this table here and bring it to the different localities where your stuff is being crafted, and you want to do that efficiently, which is why I've decided to put all of my storerooms right in the center. Additionally, what we'll do is we'll think about adding a new one over here, partially because I want gold, and we don't have a whole lot. I could mine out this wall here and replace it, which I may do if I need more gold in the future. Our imps appear to be working themselves quite hard right now. They can't put in stone walls on these because they have resources in them, as I said before. So if you're a stickler for aesthetics the way that I am, you're going to have to mine out all of these walls here and then actually build your own so that everything will have a nice uniform look to it. I want to make sure they're not digging into nasty impanzee layers down here. There are wild imps underground right now. I think they're one of the few enemies being offered in this 0.5 build. This was the one that I was able to grab this right before recording from IndieDB, and I remember playing a little while back. I don't know if there's a more updated version, but this one should do fine for the 30-minute expose that I was planning on doing in the first place. Now that we've got an extra little area there, I think I'll do the same on this side. Let's go like so and do a little 3x5, little 15 square area. Now what do I want to use all this for? Well, we're going to build ourselves, oh, the roots have grown, unfortunately. So let's get rid of those, and then we'll designate this space as a bar room. I think a bar room's going to work out, so our imps can get into barroom brawls, they can get into fights, they can cheer for their favorite football teams and so forth. Once those roots are out of the way, we shall claim all of this as our pub. So there it is. Now we're building ourselves an impish pub. The other thing that you'll notice is now that we have tables to put all of our stocks on, we can go to this menu right here. Before, this would all have question marks next to it because there was no way to quantify how much stuff we had. Now we can see that we have 90 dirt, so we know precisely how much we can spend on imps, which is, frankly, a lot. Let's give ourselves 8 more imps. That's 32 more that we've spent, but that's okay. We've got plenty of dirt running around, and we're going to get more as we mine more and more of this out. There we are. Feed him all the dirt on Earth. I feel like if I ate dirt, I would end up with a horrific intestinal blockage. But while most people might think that demons, like, they get by nutritionally on just sin and sadness, apparently it's dirt. It's much more simple than that. Scientifically, I have no idea how that works, but it works somehow. Eat dirt, poop out minions. It seems like a pretty efficient way to do business myself. There's a lot of dirt out there, and we have need of a lot of minions. Oh no. Hopefully there's no bad guys in there, because I just messed up buku. There's no bad guys in there. They haven't bum rushed us, so let's go ahead and even all this out. And once this is evened, we'll start thinking about what we want to do up there. But at the bottom for now, on this side, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a brewery. Oop, I clicked bar room. Let's make this into a brewery. There it is. We'll also get rid of that root so that our brewery won't have a weird corner where the tiles don't match, because I'm anal about things like that. I can't help it. My OCD is just like, oh, there's a corner and it's undeveloped, and I start to lose my mind slowly. There we go. We'll finish that off, and you can see that every room has its own floor tile so that you can easily identify straight from the surface what everything is once you get used to it all anyways. Down here, I think I'm going to mine this out a little bit further, and we'll turn this into our farming area. And there's a lot of unique little details that I like about the farming system. Let's mine this out as well, and we'll put in some decent walls that don't look super messy. We've got loads of minions running around. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Hold on here. Let's cancel that so that nobody comes over here and digs that out. And a simple right click always takes you back to your mining, which is a very cool feature. That's something that can be hard to find sometimes. Swapping between menus is not so easily done in many building games. And so now what we want to do is we want to build some walls. So we'll put those in right there. And we've built ourselves some walls. We also want to mine this out so that we can put in some nice, proper, civilized evil walls. Walls of destruction and doom in here, so that no one will challenge us. They'll come in and they'll look at our brick walls and they'll say, no way, bro. Those walls are too terrifying for me. I am outsies. The other thing that I'd like is, as you look, I put a corner in right here. The game will auto-queue so that it builds this corner first so that you don't trap yourselves inwards. A very good feature that many games neglect, and they force you to do all kinds of complicated buildings. Additionally, your imps will occasionally just glitch through a wall in order to build. That's perfectly fine too. As long as my walls don't look ugly, I'm happy with the situation. Let's put in a few more nice walls up here. We could also use the gold. I am not gonna lie to you guys, my ulterior motive is to get my hands on more gold. The other thing we're gonna need to make ourselves some soldiers is beer, because I want to work towards soldiers so that we can excavate as much as we want. You can't excavate as freely until you have guys that can guard you from rampaging baddies that decide to flood into your areas of your Demesne of evil, I suppose. Your Demesne of doom. So this room up here, I forgot what I was going to do with it. We'll deal with that in just a minute. This is going to be our farm, so we're going to right-click, go up to this construction menu, and we will build ourselves a farm. And I'm only going to do half the room, and you'll see why in just a moment. That's because I want to build some wells so that we can get water in order to feed this farm. So, to do that, we're going to go to our constructions menu. The well is going to be listed right there. We'll put a well there, a well there, and a well there. So we've got 4 wells now. You're going to need a lot of wells in this game in order to supply water to all your various infrastructure. And believe me, there is a lot of infrastructure to be taken care of. I'm going to build another wall over here too, so that it looks nice and clean. There it is. I'll wipe that out in just a minute if we have time. I want to cover gameplay mechanics before we get much further. Now, you know that in these weekly indie newcomers, I always like to talk about the things I do like and don't like about the games. And for the most part, there's not a whole lot that I don't like about this game. I feel like this game is headed in a very strong direction. Otherwise, why would I feature it? The weekly indie newcomer is always a place where I like to talk about games that I find particularly interesting. The things I like about this game is it's already got an art style going for it. That's, if you've listened to all of my reviews in the past, one of my big things is that a game needs to have a unique art style. Otherwise, just for me personally, aesthetically, it doesn't grab me like a game that has a very strong artistic motif does. So, in this case, I feel like the game does have a strong artistic move in it already. Secondly, everything flows smoothly. Those odd things that you run into when you play building games don't seem to be that prevalent here. Things such as getting stuck in corners, things such as blocks not facing the right direction, all of that is easily remedied. In fact, you can rotate all these little set pieces right here, should you want to, just by clicking on them, as I recall. Yeah, so there it is right there. We click, and we just kind of rotate in the direction we want, and there it is. They'll automatically, hey, you do what I say. Not you, I'm talking about the one behind you. There we go. So anyways, things rotate. It's pretty sweet. That one doesn't seem to want to rotate. I think I'm grabbing the one in front. I'll rotate and do it in a minute. Let's focus on our farm for now. With the farms, we're going to put in some wheat farms because everybody knows to get a killer brew, you got to have that barley, you got to have them hops, you got to do what you got to do in order to get yourself nice and toxically inebriated. And since our little guys like to function completely and totally on alcohol, or at least our soldiers do, these guys focus on mud. But to get our dwarvish soldiers, we need beer, because everybody knows dwarves love their inebriates. While we're doing that, let's go to our bar room and we'll put in some brewers so that we can get those going. They're not likely to win any World Series anytime soon. Or I may be speaking full. Didn't the Brewers win a World Series recently? I don't know. Brewers used to get laughed at a lot, but I think they won recently, which pretty much taps out all those jokes. I could be wrong, though. So, if that is the case, the Brewers joke, it stands. If not, retracted. Let's continue. We're going to get all these brewing barrels in, and we want to have a lot of them so that we can produce loads and loads of beer, because bad guys tend to be alkies, because that's how you get the nerve to do those first few crimes. And then after that, you no longer need the alcohol. You just go do them in the first place. So let's see here. That's all up and running. You may be noticing these rather sinister-looking question/stars, quest stars, as I like to call them. That's because there's something in your supply chain missing. In this case, it's not going to be water, it's going to be the wheat that you need. This little thing right here fills up when it's ready to be harvested, and you'll see that all my little imps are out and rolling doing their jobs. How sweet is that? Everything just functions on an automated level. I don't need to set up the supply chains by hand. I don't need to set up the jobs by hand. They just do them, and they do them in a logical order most of the time as well, which is once again one of those things that Sandbox building games tend to neglect and not be very good at. Over here in our bar room, we'll think about putting in some more chairs, but do we have enough wood? How much wood do we have? We have plenty of wood. We are much like Bob right now, just smiling our faces off with wood everywhere. Easy wood jokes, go. Now, this is all functioning nicely. They're all a-brewing down here. I like the little range of animations you have. If you notice down here when we were building the farms, another cool thing is the attention to detail in this game. When you drill these out, obviously you need sunlight in order for these to function. Well, what do? After the imps plant all the seeds and they dig all this out, they get up on a little footstool and they drill upwards to make a hole in the ceiling that you can't see right now. But just for continuity, they drill a little hole in the ceiling as part of their animation, which is it's an attention to detail, which is a major part of an engrossing gameplay experience. So I think they've done a good job with Dwelvers so far. Let's continue mining things out. Why not? We need to find ourselves some kind of adventure. So I guess we'll go off in this direction, just kind of mining a straight line, and we'll see what pops out at us. Hopefully nothing too sinister like a chest burst or anything. I don't want to have to deal with that right now. Finals, I have. Physics finals, math finals, I have many of, but chest bursters are a problem right now that I would prefer to ignore. Now, if you're watching this video series, you might be asking me, Splattercat, why haven't you been doing multiple videos a day lately? I'd like to use this video just as a moment to let you guys know what's going on with the Nerd Castle. It's my finals week right now, and so there's not a whole lot of stuff going on at my place besides burying my face in a book and feeling like crying. Once that's over, which should be next week around Wednesday, we'll be back to 2 videos a day, but up until then, 1 video a day. Sorry guys, gotta pass my classes. It's my last year in college. If I mess this up, I'll never forgive myself. Alright, so where were we? We're exploring and looking for bad guys. Let's have a look at our stats here. We've got 30 beers and we've got 9 gold. That means we can make a bunch of Dwarvish warriors. So let's jump into our menu. Right now, these are the only 2 creatures that are offered, but we can make 9 of them, which is exactly what we are going to do. Oh, we actually, okay, so there they are right there. Those are impansies, and they are dicks. They run around. We must have hit an enemy lair here. And what we will have is our dwarves will jump into battle and fight with the enemy, hopefully. You can see these little health bars. I'm glad this happened. Our imps are taking damage. You see these little circles above their heads? Those little circles are their health bars. And so as our dwarves spawn and fight, we should be able to kill all these little primate nuisances. And the second we're out of here, these primate problems, primoblums, as I like to call them. And as soon as we're down and done with them, we should have increased safety and security. There's a pile of beer over here on the floor. This is looking much too much like he just threw his feces at one of my poor imps. As if their job wasn't already demeaning enough, now they've got to be hit with fecal matter. If you feel the need to command your dwarves, you can do that as well with this rally flag. We'll drop that right there. And what you will see is that all of our dwarves will run tally-ho, Kurahi, and so forth, hoorah, and they'll run over here and get into a fight with that impancy, which has now been beat into a nasty, bloody pulp. I've never heard of a good bloody pulp, I suppose. I guess they're all nasty unless you're not squeamish. Let's continue grabbing some of this gold out of the walls, and we'll look around. As of right now, there's not a whole lot of features in the game because this is kind of a really glorified functionality demo, but they are giving you the release logs up on IndieDB. And I know that recently, right now, the devs are saying that in their own private version, or maybe one that they've released elsewhere, I'm not too in the know about these things, they've got multi-floors working, and they've got a number of features that are already functioning internally, they just haven't released them as of yet. So it looks like they're updating about every few weeks, which is a reasonable schedule for an indie developer. They don't have that fundamental symptom of only updating every 3 to 4 months like some studios do. There is progress being made on the game, plus it's free. If you want to go download this game right now, you can get it off IndieDB. Now, as to whether the game will have a stipulated cost or an amount of shekels you must shell out in order to play it once it goes public, I'm willing to bet it'll probably do a public release, but as of right now, if you want to play the demo, go to IndieDB. I've got a link down in the comments or down in the description. You can check it out there. And as of right now, we've done just about everything. Let's turn this into a dungeon first. I don't want to break this off too early because I haven't gotten much of a break lately. We'll turn that into a dungeon. So there it is. They'll start working on that. My rally flag, I'm going to put that back towards the center of my dungeon heart. Actually, let's put it over here. We're excavating over here, which means that's more than likely where we want to keep our guards so that if they burst through any Mines of Moria-esque holes, all of these guys will be at least able to hold their ground and then die next to a well so that a bunch of hobbits can come find it later. Okay, so everything's up and running except for a few of these breweries, which appear to be untended. Why that is, I'm not sure. We'll try rotating them for now. Maybe that'll help out, maybe it won't. Who knows? It may or may not. I think it's largely due to the fact that we may not have enough barley running around. Not sure, I'd have to investigate it. As of right now, there's not a whole lot of ways to figure out where your supply chain is going wrong if you've got a half-on, half-off situation going. But we've already produced all the units in the game as it stands, so we'll just keep mining all this stuff out, and once we find something else interesting, we'll talk about that. Our dungeon over here is for the containment of heroes. Now, what that does within the gameplay elements as the game stands right now, I haven't really seen. I've played for a couple hours, and I'd like to fancy that I've done everything so far. But I'm not so sure. We can put in prison hand torches. We can put in skull torches. What we want is this right here, the prison bars. So let's do that. We'll create ourselves a little prison. Actually, I think those take iron, as I recall. Let's have a look here, and I may have misquoted those as being stone. That might be iron. Let's see, we'll mouse over. Yeah, it's iron. So if you mouse over any section, it'll tell you what's in that wall. So if you ever mess up what a resource is, like I just did, you could fix the problem really, really quickly. We don't have any iron, so I don't see that happening anytime soon. What we'll maybe do is turn this little region into a foundry so that we can create ingots and stuff of that nature so that we can move ourselves into the Iron Age. Imps, are you doing okay down here? It looks like they're doing okay down here. The imps are like, tally-ho, Roger. Although they never take off those shades. You've got to figure that they don't see very well underground with shades on. I know that I wouldn't. Let me mind that. Let's see if we can get a few more workers in too. So there's like 5 more workers. That should help us out. Alright. And so I'm happy with our results so far. Now the game does have a fairly large, substantially large map to explore. I don't know if maybe you unlock stuff as you go through. But as of right now, we're hitting about the edge of my expertise. I'm hoping that I've showed the game off enough. It's not really a first impression, but it is sort of. I like to play these games for a few hours beforehand and just talk about the things that I've noticed as I play. But this is one of those games that I have very high hopes for. I mean, I play a lot of Sandbox games. Being in charge of the Nerd Castle, I get sent and I play a lot of indie Sandbox games. And the traditional things that I see wrong with them is a lack of direction, a lack of development, I think maybe a lack of knowledge sometimes, where the developers, I feel like they hit snags in the programming that they just don't know how to get around. And those are major issues for a complicated game like this one, which functions on a sandbox level. But as of right now, I haven't seen any of these problems, which leads me to think that this game is open to a very merry and very happy development cycle in the future. One that I think is pretty ambitious and one that I'll definitely be keeping an eye on. So my name is Splattercat. Thank you for joining me here at the Nerd Castle for another episode of our weekly indie newcomer. This week's win was Dwelvers, which is developed in part by some of the Old Towns devs. I wish you guys the best. I hope that you're enjoying your holiday season, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care out there, everybody, and I will see you next time.